How's it going, YouTube? We're going to check out this article. It is talking about how Russia has prepared for 8 years, okay, to be cut off from the West. It's kind of a big deal because here we get to see the sort of the thought process that's going behind this idea that people get cut off from the dollar, the world reserve currency. People get cut off from the dollar. What do? They either create an alternative system or they go to Bitcoin. So since the start of the Ukrainian war, a bunch of Western sanctions has crippled the Russian economy, completely decimated the rubles, and they had to really come up with a fast way of how to deal with this. So they've been basically cut off from the international payment system called SWIFT, and they lost access to a bunch of foreign exchange reserves, and it's close to $1 trillion, it says here, $630 billion. They have been restricted. And as many have heard, lots of oligarch assets have been frozen, close to $17 billion, including those nice, big, beautiful yachts we've all seen. So MasterCard states here via email that credit cards issued by the Russian banks are no longer supported by its network because they've been cut off. But credit cards are still being used in Russia and are being processed by this system called Switch, which was established 2014 and is being run by the Central Bank of Russia. So essentially, the Russian consumers relying on locally issued cards bearing the MasterCard logo, they can still use their credit cards. And they're basically functioning as normal. So the spokesperson, this is crazy, the spokesperson for MasterCard confirmed in another email sent to Fortune that the company doesn't have the ability to block domestic transactions in Russia and receives no benefit from them, whatever that means. So guess why? Because MasterCard and other Western companies signed an agreement for their transactions to be processed by the NSPK, the Russian payment system, in 2015, which is pretty nuts. So they knew that at some point they would be blocked off. That is mind-boggling. The other thing this has done is it's helped the Russians, the government, keep the assets from going abroad. That's pretty interesting. The sanctions also boosted Russia's own credit card company, MIR, built on the back of the NSPK and owned by the Central Bank of Russia. Now, as we can see here, the ruble is actually climbing, pretty nuts. And is it because now the ruble is backed by gold and maybe even Bitcoin? Let me know. What do you think? Now, the sanctions also boosted Russia's own credit card company called MIR, which is built on the back of the NSPK system and is also owned by the Central Bank of Russia. So MIR debuted back in 2015, and Russians were very slow to adopt the card. I'm guessing now there's going to be an uptick. So what is this switch? Dr. Leo Lipis, the CEO of payment industry consulting firm Lipis Advisory, said that a switch is a hub for communications that connects various banks involved in payment networks. This means that Russians relying on locally issued cards bearing the logo of MasterCard can still use their cards locally as normal. So it also states that there's over 100 million MIR cards issued, according to the company. And with the US and Western companies leaving Russia, MIR is going to just get even bigger. So after the invasion, Russia's largest bank, Sberbank, turned to China's UnionPay and so-called cross-border interbank payment system, CIPS, in an effort to circumvent the sanctions. Now, UnionPay accepted, but what has agreements with European U.S. credit card networks that allow foreign cards to be processed through its payment system accepted in some Western countries, especially for tourism. But what they're essentially saying is that China's UnionPay could be opening itself up to secondary sanctions. So essentially, Russians getting around it some way or another. Maybe even China's preparing itself, just like they saw with the Russians, to get around these things. These are still traditional payment systems using old tech. And I suspect that blockchain eventually is going to take over these payment networks. It's going to make this all go away. That is the future. If you disagree, let me know. But the blockchain tech, it's going to take over these payment systems. There's no doubt about it. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.